I never thought I'd see him again. Not like this, not after everything we lost. Emily's voice trembled as she stared at the two boys standing in front of her, identical in every way, yet worlds apart. Her heart pounded wildly, each beat echoing the years of silence, secrets, and unanswered questions that had haunted her. How could this be real? Could the child she thought was lost forever truly be here, standing right before her? The air around her seemed to thicken with a mixture of fear, hope, and a gut-wrenching longing that threatened to consume her. Memories flooded back the sleepless nights, the bitter betrayals, the unbearable loneliness. But this moment wasn't just about reunion. It was about choice, love or fear, family or pride. The battle raging inside her would force decisions that could shatter everything, or finally heal the broken pieces. Stay with me, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about family forgiveness and the unbreakable bonds that tie us together. You won't believe the truth behind this reunion and the sacrifice that's about to be made. Emily Carter's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. The warm spring breeze did little to calm the storm raging inside her as she stood frozen in the middle of Willow Creek's town square. Her 5-year-old son, Ethan, tugged at her sleeve, eyes wide with something far beyond childish imagination. "Mom, that boy, he was in your belly with me," Ethan insisted, pointing at a small barefoot child sitting on the stone fountain's edge. The child's clothes were torn and dirty, and his face was streaked with the grime of a hard life. But his eyes, those eyes, held a striking familiarity that made Emily's breath hitch. She forced a smile, trying to steady her shaking hands. "Ethan, honey, you don't have a brother," she murmured, but her voice wavered. Ethan didn't listen. He slipped free of her grip and ran toward the boy. Emily watched, heart twisting painfully, as the two boys locked eyes. It was as if time slowed the noise of the square, fading to silence. The boy Liam offered a small, hesitant smile and reached out his hand. Ethan mirrored it, and their hands met with the gentle certainty of reunion. "Hi, Liam," whispered. "Do you dream of me, too?" Ethan nodded, his face lighting up. "Every night, we play together far away." Emily's legs felt weak. The resemblance between the two boys was uncanny, from the soft curls framing their faces to a faint birthmark on their chins. Memories she'd buried deep began flooding back, fragmented images of hospital halls, muffled voices, and a profound emptiness she never fully understood. "Let's go home," Ethan Emily said softly, picking up her son, her voice cracking under the weight of unsaid truths. Yet as they walked away, Emily could feel Liam's gaze burning into her back, and tears slipped down the boy's dirt-smudged cheeks. Back in their suburban home in Willow Creek, Emily's husband Michael greeted them with a warm smile. But it faded quickly when he noticed the tension in Emily's eyes. "What happened?" he asked gently. "Nothing." "Ethan had a tantrum at the park," she replied, trying to sound casual. But Ethan was insistent, tugging at Michael's shirt. "Daddy, I saw my brother. He's alone. Mom wouldn't let me stay with him." Michael chuckled nervously. "Sweetheart, you don't have a brother. That's your imagination." Emily avoided Michael's questioning gaze, a knot tightening in her stomach. As night fell and Ethan finally drifted off to sleep, Emily sat awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by her son's words. She crept to her home office, rifling through a drawer she hadn't opened in years. Among old papers, she found medical records from Ethan's birth. Her eyes skimmed the typed lines and then stopped. Notes about a multiple pregnancy were scrawled in pencil, but the pages containing details were torn out. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Michael appeared in the doorway, rubbing his tired eyes. "Can't sleep?" Emily shook her head, clutching the folder tightly. "There's something wrong. I remember something I can't quite place. The hospital said I was carrying twins, but everything says just Ethan." Michael sat beside her, voice low. "Maybe it was a mistake. Records get messed up." She wasn't convinced. The next day, Ethan woke with one thing on his mind. "Mom, can we go see my brother?" Michael tried to dismiss it, but Emily's resolve was firm. They returned to the park. There, Liam sat alone, clutching a stale piece of bread, his caretaker nowhere in sight. Ethan bolted from the car, running into Liam's arms. Michael's mouth fell open in shock. "They're identical," he whispered. Emily knelt next to Liam. "Where's the woman who looks after you?" "She went to the hospital last night. Liam said softly, eyes red from crying. "I don't know when she'll be back. I take care of myself." A pang of guilt tore through Emily. How had this boy, her son's brother, been living on the streets all this time? Later that day at Mercy General Hospital, Emily demanded to see all her birth records. The hospital archivist, Mrs. Thompson, reluctantly pulled out an aging file. The pages were tattered, some missing entirely. The words "multiple pregnancy" were written faintly and then scratched out. Mrs. Thompson lowered her voice. Only a few staff had access. And there was a visitor, an older woman, very influential, who spent hours here the day Ethan was born. Emily's heart sank. Margaret Wilson, her mother-in-law, the formidable woman who controlled their lives from behind the scenes. Michael's face darkened. "What do you think she's hiding?" The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Back home, tension simmered as Emily and Michael tried to digest the implications. Ethan and Liam played together, their bond undeniable. When Michael asked how Liam came to be alone, Emily shared what little she knew. That night, as Liam slept beside Ethan, Emily stood by the window, torn. The woman who had raised Liam with love and sacrifice was living in poverty. Yet somewhere in the shadows, a secret had stolen 5 years of their family's time together. Her thoughts were interrupted by Ethan's quiet voice. "Mom, do you think Liam is really my brother?" Emily swallowed hard, her answer caught between hope and fear. This was no longer just a story of lost children. It was a story about family secrets and the courage it takes to face both. We're pausing here for now, dear audience. What would you do if your child told you he had a brother you never knew about, someone living in hardship? Would you follow your heart or protect your family's comfort? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, don't forget to hit the like button and send some love our way. Your support means everything as we continue this journey together. The weight of the secret hung heavily over Emily Carter's home in Willow Creek. The days that followed their encounter at the park blurred into a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, whispered conversations, and sleepless nights. Liam, Ethan's mirror image, was no longer just a mysterious boy on the street. He was family, but that truth came wrapped in shadows far darker than Emily had imagined. Michael sat across from Emily at the kitchen table, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the windows. His jaw was clenched, eyes clouded with worry. "We have to think about what this means," he said quietly. "Margaret will never let this go quietly." Emily swallowed hard. Margaret Wilson, his mother, was a titan in their lives, wealthy, powerful, and fiercely protective of the family's image. The very idea that Liam existed, and worse, that he had lived alone on the streets for years, threatened to unravel everything. "We can't just sweep this under the rug," Emily insisted. "Liam is Ethan's brother. He deserves a family, a home." Michael nodded slowly but said nothing. At that moment, the doorbell rang, slicing through the tension like a knife. Emily opened it to find a frail, sunken woman, Grace, Liam's caretaker. Her eyes were tired but filled with a quiet dignity. "I came to see Liam," Grace said softly. "He's been missing me." Inside the house, as Liam clung to Grace's embrace, Emily watched the reunion with aching tenderness. This woman had been Liam's anchor in a world that had forsaken him. But the moment was fragile. Margaret Wilson arrived that evening, her presence filling the room with icy tension. She was poised, dressed impeccably, but her gaze was sharp as she surveyed Liam, the boy who threatened her carefully constructed world. "This is unacceptable," Margaret declared, her voice cold but controlled. "Michael, you must put an end to this before it destroys us." Michael's face hardened for the first time since the truth emerged. "Mom, Liam is family. He deserves our help." Margaret's eyes flashed with fury. "Family? You don't know what you're saying. That boy doesn't belong here. Bringing him into this house is a mistake you'll regret." Emily stood between them, heart pounding. She could feel the walls closing in. The battle lines were drawn, and it wasn't just about Liam anymore. It was about love, loyalty, and the future of their family. Days passed with the quiet tension escalating into open conflict. Margaret cut off financial support, threatening to withdraw her help with the mortgage that kept their home standing. Michael and Emily were faced with a terrifying choice: cling to the comfort and security provided by Margaret's money or fight for the family they believed in. One night, as Emily sat alone rocking Liam to sleep, the boy whispered, "Mom, will I always be alone?" Her heart shattered. She kissed his forehead, promising never again. "We'll make sure of it." But the next morning, reality crashed back with brutal force. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter. Michael announced he was taking on extra work, long nights that left him exhausted but determined. Emily's pregnancy news came as both a blessing and a storm. The joy of new life was shadowed by the crushing burden of uncertainty. Could they provide for another child? Could they protect their fractured family from breaking apart completely? As the pregnancy progressed, Emily's inner battle intensified. Every kick from the unborn child was a reminder of the fragile hope she clung to, yet every argument with Michael and the looming threat of homelessness was a weight dragging her down. One evening, Emily found herself alone on the porch, the night air cold against her skin. Tears streamed as she whispered to the stars, "What if I'm not strong enough to keep them all safe?" Inside, Michael was fighting his own demons, wrestling with his mother's ultimatums and his desire to be a good father and husband. Meanwhile, Liam struggled silently with his own fears. He clung to Ethan, but often retreated into himself, haunted by years of neglect and uncertainty. Grace's health was failing, and the thought of losing the only person who had loved him unconditionally terrified him. In a pivotal moment, Emily confronted Margaret directly at a family gathering. Her voice trembled, but held firm. "You took Liam away from us. You robbed us of years together. But we are not giving up on him. This family isn't just about blood or status, it's about love and responsibility." Margaret's composure cracked for a split second before she masked it with cold resolve. "You think you can fix what was broken? You're naive." That night, Emily lay awake beside Michael, their hands entwined, each silently vowing to protect their family from external forces and from themselves. In the weeks that followed, Michael's secret night shifts and Emily's growing belly became symbols of sacrifice and hope. Friends in the community began to notice the struggle behind the closed doors, and whispers of support started to ripple through Willow Creek. Yet looming over them was the question, how far were they willing to go to hold their family together? Would the love between Ethan and Liam be strong enough to bridge the chasm carved by years of separation and secrecy? The tension reached its peak one rainy evening when Liam suddenly fell gravely ill. Feverish and weak, he was rushed to Mercy General Hospital, where doctors worked to stabilize him. Emily sat by his bedside, holding his small hand, tears flowing freely. "I'm here, Liam. You're safe now." Michael arrived, exhaustion etched into his face, but his eyes held a fierce determination. "We're going to get through this together." As the storm raged outside inside the hospital room, a new bond was forged, not just between brothers, but within a family battered but unbroken. We must pause here, dear viewers. The story is far from over, but the questions linger. How far would you go to protect a family fractured by secrets? Could love truly overcome the weight of lies and loss? Tell us, what would you do if your entire life was turned upside down by a long-hidden truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like and send your support. Every bit of your kindness fuels the journey forward. Morning light filtered gently through the curtains of the small hospital room, casting a golden glow on Liam's still pale face. Emily sat by his side, fingers intertwined with his fragile hand, her heart pounding with a cautious hope. The night had been merciful. The fever that had gripped Liam was finally easing, the sharp breaths softening to steady rhythms. Michael entered quietly, his exhaustion etched deep in the lines around his eyes, yet his gaze was filled with a flicker of optimism. "How is he?" he asked, voice low but earnest. Emily turned and smiled softly, a tear escaping despite her efforts. "Better. Much better than yesterday. I think he's going to be okay." In that moment, something unspoken shifted in the room, a fragile hope that stretched beyond Liam's recovery. The family, fractured and fragile, was beginning to mend. The following days unfolded in a delicate dance of healing. Liam's body grew stronger, but the emotional scars of years on the streets ran deep, hidden beneath quiet smiles and sudden silences. He and Ethan clung to each other, brothers bound not only by shared features, but by a bond forged in absence and rediscovery. Yet beneath the surface lay fears, distrust, and the haunting ghosts of abandonment. Emily found herself stretched thin, torn between her pregnancy's demands, Liam's needs, and the crumbling boundaries of her relationship with Michael. The shadow of Margaret Wilson loomed large, her disapproval sharp as ever, her refusal to accept Liam a constant storm. One evening after putting the boys to bed, Emily sat alone on the porch, her hand resting protectively over her belly. The cool night air whispered around her as she battled her own doubts. "How do I hold us all together?" she whispered to the stars. "Can love really conquer this?" Michael joined her, quietly settling beside her with a sigh. "We have to face Margaret," he said finally. "No more hiding." Emily nodded, the resolve hardening in her chest. Together, confronting Margaret was a crucible. In the grand polished drawing room of the Wilson estate, Emily, Michael, Liam, and Ethan faced her piercing gaze. Margaret was regal, statuesque, but her eyes revealed the conflict beneath the surface, a mix of fear, regret, and unspoken love. "You don't understand," Margaret began, voice tight. "I was protecting you all. That boy, he's a liability, a threat to everything we've built." Michael's voice was steady but fierce. "He's our family, our son. We owe him more than secrecy and shame." Liam stood silently beside Emily, the boy who had lived in shadows now glowing faintly with a tentative hope. Margaret's facade cracked. For the first time, tears welled in her eyes. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I only wanted to protect you, but I hurt us all." Emily stepped forward, her voice gentle but unwavering. "Family isn't about control or money or image. It's about love, forgiveness, and second chances." The room softened, and slowly Margaret reached out, clasping Liam's hand, an unspoken promise of acceptance and healing. Back home, the Carter household transformed. Liam began to blossom in the warmth of acceptance and care. Grace, the woman who had cared for Liam through his darkest years, became an honored member of the family. She moved into a nearby apartment, welcomed not as an outsider, but as a cherished pillar of support and love. Emily's pregnancy progressed amidst newfound joy and ongoing challenges. The Carters struggled with debts as Margaret's financial support waned, but neighbors, friends, and even strangers stepped in, drawn by the story of a family fighting for love against all odds. One chilly autumn afternoon, the family gathered in their backyard beneath a sprawling oak tree, their hands together planting a sapling, a symbol of growth, endurance, and hope. Emily knelt beside Liam and Ethan, her voice thick with emotion. "This tree will grow strong, just like us. No matter what storms come, we stand together." Liam smiled, his eyes shining. "I'm not alone anymore. You never were," Emily promised. But healing was not linear. Liam's past left echoes in the present, nightmares, sudden withdrawals, and moments of deep fear that tested the family's unity. Emily and Michael leaned into therapy and community support, learning how to nurture Liam's fragile trust. Michael worked longer hours, sacrificing sleep and health to keep their home. Emily balanced her own emotional needs with the demands of motherhood. Old wounds reopened and new fears arose. The stress tested their bond, but their commitment never wavered. One evening, as Emily tucked Liam into bed, the boy looked up with wide, questioning eyes. "Mom, will you always love me even if I mess up?" Her heart ached. "Always, Liam, no matter what." That night in the quiet, Michael and Emily shared a vulnerable conversation about their fears and hopes, the weight of their past and the future they still dared to dream for their family. The Carters' story spread through Willow Creek like wildfire, inspiring many. At school, teachers saw Liam's progress and resilience. In the community, neighbors offered help without judgment. The story of the two brothers reunited against all odds became a beacon of hope. Margaret, too, evolved. Her once rigid facade softened into genuine affection and a desire to atone. She sold her sprawling estate, choosing instead a smaller home, closer to her grandchildren, willing to redefine what family truly meant. On a crisp spring day, the entire extended family gathered for a celebration. Friends and neighbors filled the backyard with laughter and music, a tapestry of stories woven into one. The tree they planted years ago stood tall, its branches stretching wide, sheltering generations beneath. Emily watched Liam and Ethan racing through the yard, their laughter echoing like a healing hymn. Grace chatted warmly with Margaret, bridging divides that once seemed insurmountable. Michael pulled Emily aside, smiling with quiet pride. "We did it. Against everything, we found our way." Emily nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "Love found a way." Years later, on Liam's 10th birthday, the family gathered once more beneath that now towering oak. The boys, tall and confident, stood side by side, inseparable not only by blood but by heart. Liam looked around at the faces of those who had fought alongside him, the family they had rebuilt from broken pieces, and said softly, "I'm home." Emily smiled, knowing that this journey full of pain and struggle was a testament to the strength of human love. A reminder that family is more than DNA. It's the courage to forgive, to accept, and to never give up. So, dear viewers, this story leaves us with a few questions to reflect on. What does family truly mean to you? How far would you go to rebuild bonds that time and hardship have fractured? Tell us in the comments below. How did this story move you? If you loved it, please comment Note 3. If you think it needs improvement, comment number 1. If you found it just okay, comment number 2. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to send your hearts, and share this video with those who might need a reminder that love always finds a way. Thank you for joining us on this journey.